Well, good afternoon, folks. I hope everyone is staying warm on a very chilly January. Guys, Aaron Dorr here with Wyoming Gun Owners. A really big and important update video for gun people that you have to see today. I'm joined here with Chris Dorr and Ben Dorr, my brothers, and we, as you guys know, have been fighting alongside of Wyoming Gun Owners for years, leading the fight for a whole host of pro-gun bills with pro-gun stalwarts like Senator Anthony Bouchard and many, many others in Cheyenne. But folks, there is a growing problem here in Wyoming and frankly across the country with national groups that have no presence in our state, national groups that have nobody who actually knows what's happening in the state capitol here in Wyoming, who come in here at the last minute trying to take away money from all of our members, all of you guys across the state, and then use that to fund their own programs, and they leave us hanging high and dry. It's been going on for a long time, and for a long time, that was the NRA doing that, and we all know that's been discussed an awful lot here by us and others, where these national groups come in here, take away all the money from local gun owners, and then they do nothing to help us fight for our gun rights in Cheyenne. But folks, today's video is a little bit different, and it's going to hit a little bit closer to home perhaps for some people, because this video today is about Gun Owners of America. Gun Owners of America, GOA. Everyone knows who we're talking about. And GOA is now coming into Wyoming for, I believe, the first time in history. As far as I know, it's the first time ever that GOA has been active in Wyoming. And folks, they are trying to foul up the fight for SAPA, which begins in just a couple of weeks when session convenes here in Cheyenne. So we're going to talk about that in today's video because, folks, it's going to make you mad. At least it sure as heck makes me mad.
Well, I think a lot of people know we fight for the Second Amendment in a lot of places, pass a lot of great pro-gun bills in a lot of states. And what Aaron's about to talk about here, I think, is becoming a bigger problem. It's becoming a bigger issue. It's like Aaron said, mucking up the works in a lot of different states where gun owners have spent a long time building pressure, maneuvering situations into a place where gun owners can finally hammer through the bills, pass them into law, and expand their freedom in their states. And so this, to me, and I guess we could talk about this a little bit more, but this to me is becoming a much bigger problem than just what's happening in Wyoming right now, like we're going to talk about. And I think that's where we're going with this. It's becoming a big problem and it's stopping the gun rights.
It takes work to be effective in state capitals. All three of us, we've all spent a decade fighting for gun rights in state capitals across the country, and it takes a lot of work. You have to be in the state capitol. You have to be on the ground. You have to be in committee. You have to be active in the elections. And the story of Wyoming gun owners is one of utter success for over a decade now here in Wyoming. Before I even ran WYGO, back when Senator Bouchard ran WYGO, WYGO was one of the first groups in the country to pass constitutional carry way back in the Stone Ages of 2011. It was one of the pivotal moments in that fight to make constitutional carry begin to get up and get momentum to move across America. And it has now in a major way. WYGO led that charge in 2011. And then WYGO came along and killed all kinds of Republican gun control bills in the years that followed. WYGO then, of course, as you guys all know, passed monumental and one of the nation's best stand your ground laws in 2018. WYGO comes along again and then exposes all kinds of anti-gun Republican RINO backstabbing traitors in the elections in 2020 with great success, smashing success. And then we're leading the fight for SAPA. But what's amazing about all this is that every single day I've spent in the Capitol in Cheyenne, I've never seen anybody from GOA. I never saw anybody from GOA help us fight to expose gun grabbers at election time in 2020. When WYGO members funded a federal lawsuit against the state, which we're going through right now, we saw nobody from GOA reach out and offer to help with this. And that's been fine because Wyoming Gun Owners members, we fight for our own state. We're fine. And frankly, our success has spoken for itself. And so we have no problem with these national groups taking a pass on flyover country, but by God, when they come in here now, days before session begins, mucking up the works, you're going to get our attention. We're going to talk about kind of the history of what's been going on here in just a couple moments.
Well, I think what you said there, and I'm Chris Dorr. For those of you who have not been on, I don't think I've ever been on a Wyoming gun
Oh,
owners
yes,
live stream before, but it kind of begs the question, doesn't it? Like when you look at the way a lot of these national organizations have been run in the past, for decades, they leave alone. They ignore gun owners in states like California. They ignore the gun owners in states like New York because apparently those people aren't worth defending. Those are battles that they can't win in their minds. They also ignore the small states, the states like Kansas, the states like Nebraska, the states like Wyoming. And why? The reason why is simple, quite frankly. It's because there's hardly any money in those states. They can't milk enough money out of those states to feed the mothership back in Washington, D.C. or in Arlington, Virginia. And so they just totally ignore a lot of this stuff. So it begs the question, why now? Why Wyoming when there's all these other big states where stuff is happening? Why are you picking Wyoming as a state that you want to focus on? And I think it's very simple. It's the work that WYGO members have already done. And like the whole point here is that the problem with these groups is that they only come in after the people on the ground, the people in the capitals have done all this hard work, and it's like they stick their hand out. Let's feed me your bucks, feed me your bucks.
Chris, I think Aaron just said it a second ago. The history of Wyoming gun owners is a history of winning, big winning, constitutional carry getting passed, stand your ground law getting passed, a whole host of other things that have happened in the last 10 years. And so we know how the national organizations are. It's like, oh my gosh, Wyoming is on the verge of more winning, more big pro-gun bills like the Second Amendment Preservation Act. And now's a great time for them to hop in, be on the ground when the bill passes, so they can send out to their national list and say, here's all the things that we as a national group have done. We passed this bill in this state, this bill in this state, when in reality, these people jet set in many cases because the victory is about to happen, a victory that WYGO members have secured. Anyway, that's what I think is happening here.
Well, here's
Aaron,
what happens. Go ahead, Chris.
I was just going to say, why don't you break this down, jump into the details
This
a
is
little
what
bit.
happens when you bring in somebody who has no clue what they're doing, no clue what's been going on for years before they ever set foot in the Capitol, and you have a new state liaison, Mark Jones, who's working the state, pretending to fight for SAPA. Here's the backstory, right? So in 2020, Representative Mark Jennings, everyone probably knows Mark Jennings. Mark Jennings files House Bill 118. This is the Second Amendment Preservation Act. Now, that's what he called it. Now, we passed SAPA just this past year in Missouri, the nation's best SAPA law. And what makes it the best is that any violation of SAPA in Missouri, any department that violates SAPA law against an individual gun owner, that gun owner can then take that agency to court on his own. And that is what makes SAPA work. That's what makes it powerful. If you rely on the attorney general or the governor or anybody else in the state capitol to lead that fight for you, it's never going to happen. So the gold standard for SAPA law in America today is the bill that we passed in Missouri last year, individual gun owners taking agencies to court where civil penalties begin at $50,000 a shot. That is the gold standard for SAPA. Mark Jennings files HB 118. Okay, and this is a terrible bill.
This is a state representative in Wyoming.
Representative Mark Jennings, files this bill, and he asks us to review it. And so I talked to Mark the opening day of session 2020 and said, Mark, I mean, you're a good guy. We've helped you before. This bill is crap. Everybody knows it. It allows the attorney general to review any violations of SAPA, and if Bridget Hill thinks it's bad, she may encourage the state to not enforce it. It's toothless. It's totally impotent.
Terrible.
It's impotent. And what's worse, Mark, is that if you push this trash forward, every RINO backstabbing Republican gun grabber in Cheyenne is going to jump on this bill, and they're going to use this as cover during the elections. And Mark says, I got it. I know it's a bad bill, and we're not going to move it anywhere, I promise. Fair enough. Of course, he breaks his promise to gun owners, breaks his promise to us.
Why would he introduce a bad bill like that then? What's he getting at?
It could be a combination of things. He could just be too stupid to know what real SAPA law actually means. He never asked Wyoming gun owners for any help with his bill draft. If he had, we had told him how bad this bill was at the beginning. It could simply be he wanted to actually pass a bill for the first time in his life. It could have been that. And we're seeing comments here from Senator Tom James right now, and he says, it's very easy to pass a bad gun bill. Senator James is commenting here right now, and he's 100% correct. The more watered down your gun bill is, the easier it is to pass. And if all you want to do is say, finally, I passed a bill, well, then, yeah, the more watered down you make it, the easier it is to pass. And so exactly what we warned Representative Jennings would happen, happened. You have the Democrats, almost every Democrat in Cheyenne in the House voted for House Bill 118.
No.
All of the moderates, the anti-gun moderates, Speaker Harshman, Dan Furphy. Dan Furphy supports waiting periods for gun owners. This guy votes yes on this trash. Sandy Newsom. Everyone in Park County knows Sandy Newsom. Newsom just about lost her primary in 2020 because of all of her anti-gun votes, but she got to hold up her vote on this trash from Mark Jennings and say, oh, see, I'm not anti-gun. I'm pro-gun, just like Jerry Obermueller and Crank and Northrup and McGuire, all of them. They all hid behind Mark Jennings' crappy SAPA bill. This is what we warned them about. This is what we warned about. Now, this is who Gun Owners of America comes in to Wyoming and goes to lead their fight for SAPA.
What?
This is their lead sponsor. This is the guy who has directly harmed the fight for SAPA, right? And has directly harmed the pro-gun forces in Cheyenne. This is the guy that GOA comes and uses to be their bill sponsor. Now, I want to talk a little more about this bill, though, from 2020.
Okay.
Because there are champions for freedom in that state Senate.
I was going to say, I'm sitting here. I'm like, why on God's green, actually, it's not so green right now. Why on God's earth would these people go to somebody like that? But I think you're gonna tell us here. Keep going.
Well, I just want to explain what happened. So after this bill passes the House, it comes over to the Senate, right? And Senator Bouchard and Senator James and guys like this, they know what a Trojan horse disaster this is. They know that if SAPA passes, SAPA, so-called, passes like this,
let's go.
It's going to be used. It's going to destroy SAPA. It's going to destroy the entire fight for this law, and it's going to protect all of these gun grabbers and make it impossible for WYGO to build on this for next session to pass SAPA. So these guys manned up, and they had to vote no on this bill on the floor. And folks, that's not an easy vote to take because the whole world calls it SAPA. The whole world calls it SAPA, but it's fake SAPA. It's not real SAPA. It's toothless old nag SAPA. And these guys, Senator James and Bouchard, did what was necessary at extreme political cost to themselves and shut that crap down because they knew how dangerous it would be for Wyomingites.
I'm just going to jump in. I'm just going to, sorry. I'm just going to jump in here. For those of you who are watching this right now, or maybe watching this on the rebroadcast, I want to harp in on something Aaron just said there. This is what happens a lot of times in a lot of different states. You have all these grassroots people, all these inside great people working hard for the great bill, the robust, the substantive, everything gun owners deserve bill. And these rhino pieces of trash, they see all this energy, all this momentum, and maybe deep down they don't even really support it, but they want the glory, they want the credit. So in order to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory and to put the limelight on themselves, they come in with this watered down garbage and they try to totally derail the good stuff and instead pass the bad stuff, but then still take all this credit, say, look at me, look what I did here. And that's exactly what Aaron is talking about. And so for a guy like Anthony Bouchard, for him to walk in there and have the courage of his conviction to walk up to his desk when he knows without a doubt that there are people that are going to try to attack him and label him as pro-gun, for him to let his courage of his conviction win the day and vote no and put that stuff down like it should be. That is a very hard thing to do. For a legislator, that is a very hard river to cross. And for him to do that shows you the integrity of the leadership of the gun rights movement in the state legislature in Wyoming. And so for somebody to come in and say, we're not going to pick that person over here. We're going to pick this guy over here who has this whole history. That's god awful. It's awful.
It's unforgivable behavior. And
Senator Bouchard and those guys, you know, they single-handedly saved the SAPA movement in Wyoming by voting no on that trash bill that Jones introduced. They saved it. If that bill had been passed, everything Aaron just said about it was true. It would have sucked all of the energy out of it.
Yes.
All kinds of people across Wyoming would have thought, well, hey, we got SAPA. This is a great bill. It's a great law. And the SAPA movement, the real SAPA movement, would have been tanked and destroyed had Bouchard and the rest of those guys had they not voted against it. So yeah, everything you're saying I think is totally true.
So this is the lead guy now that GOA, Gun Owners of America, is going to in the House. A guy who has knowingly drafted crap legislation, a guy who has propped up anti-gun, rhino backstabbing moderate traders, and a guy who is so arrogant he won't just simply say, you know what, I biffed it. I'm sorry. Thank you, Bouchard and James, for shutting this crap down. I'm sorry. This is they don't go to Bob Wharf to file their bills. They don't go to Dan Larson or Chuck Gray. No. They go to this trash, Mark Jennings. Shameful. But that's the House side. Maybe you think, maybe, just maybe, GOA's brand new guy on the ground, Mark Jones, maybe he can find somebody better in the Senate. No. This gets even worse. Everyone knows then that last session, Senator Bouchard filed Senate File 81. This is Wyoming gun owners endorsed SAPA legislation. Hell, I wrote the bill, and Senate File 81 was the bill. An incredible SAPA law written off of the success that we had in Missouri passing SAPA last year as well. Fantastic bill, the best of the best, that same gold standard, civil penalties for agencies, individuals could take them to court. It's the best of the best, right? So what happens to that bill? If you were engaged in this fight, you know what I'm talking about. In the last couple of days of session, Senator Larry Hicks, Vice President of the Senate, Larry Hicks runs an amendment. And if you read the amendment, you know what I'm talking about. He takes all of the enforcement, all of the teeth, all of what makes SAPA really good. And he says that if there's any violations of SAPA, if you have 25 Wyomingites or more, they can file a complaint with AG Bridget Hill. And if Bridget Hill finds this new federal gun control law unconstitutional, she may give it to the governor. And if Governor Gordon finds it bad, he may tell state authorities to not enforce it. It destroyed SAPA. Everybody knew it. It destroyed it. The amendment passed 22-8, and as always, the best of the best, Bouchard, Beitman, James, McEwen, Salazar, these guys stand tall, and they say, we're not voting for this crap, and they shut it. They voted that amendment through, but not with the support of any conservatives. They stood tall, took a tough vote, and said, no, we're not going to aid in this. But Larry Hicks knowingly, connivingly, and intentionally did that to kill SAPA last session. And this is the guy that Gun Owners of America is now turning to be their lead sponsor in 2022 for SAPA, Senator Larry Hicks.
Have we not seen this before in all these different states across America where there's so much good work being done? Perfection is achievable. It's right there for the taking. All you got to do is take it. And all of a sudden, here comes the NRA from Washington, D.C., calling the shots, thinking that they know better than anybody in the cheap seats. Doesn't that sound a lot like federal government? Isn't that the way the federal government, they think they know better from Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., where I was 2 days ago? They think they know better than the actual people living out in the states? Why? We have had, that's how gun rights in America got to where it is. Gun rights in America for years went nowhere because it was all left up to the NRA and these national groups. Instead, what happened was finally people got sick and tired about 2010. All these state groups start popping up and passing major bills. Why? We know this path leads to failure. Why are they doing it again?
It's just
because
an
the other
embarrassment.
side, because the other side is again, the movements that people like Anthony Bouchard have made, like they continue to lead to victory on the issues, right? It's not like, well, if Wyoming doesn't get this watered down SAPA bill, then they're just not going to get SAPA, you know? Like we'd rather have something better than nothing, right? Right? No, totally wrong. The outcome of this way of doing politics, this way of fighting on behalf of gun owners, is that Wyoming has always eventually got the bill. They got constitutional carry. They got stand your ground law. They're advancing Second Amendment rights all over the place. All you have to do is not be an idiot gun rights activist and tank your own movement or the movement, because it's not GOA's movement. It's Wyoming gun owners and their members who have been pushing this fight for the last decade. All they have to do, GOA, if they want to be helpful, if they want to be involved, all they have to do is call up Aaron, call up WYGO and say, all right, who are the fighters? Who are the stalwarts? Who's pushing this? What's the plan? How do we get SAPA done in Wyoming? GOA would like to, lend a helping hand. And Aaron could give them the info. Okay, we're going to get on board with this bill, this great SAPA bill over here. We're not going to ride with these RINOs over here who are killing the real SAPA movement. And now we're all walking in lockstep together to pass a beautiful, gorgeous SAPA law for Wyoming. But instead, they're teaming up with people like Jennings and Hicks to carry SAPA when that is going to end in disaster. And everybody knows it.
Yeah, the biggest fear we've got here on behalf of the board of WYGO is that this shit actually passes. And pardon my French, but if GOA passes the kind of bill that Mark Jennings has written before, that Larry Hicks has written before, then what's going to happen is Governor Gordon's going to sign it that fast this coming session. And then as WYGO goes out there, assuming we win our federal lawsuit, and I think we're going to, and we go to expose the daylights out of anti-gun, RINO, backstabbing gun grabbers and crush them all across the state and expose their records, what's going to happen is, as we're trying to do that, and of course, GOA is not going to help with that, right? As we're doing that, all of these RINOs are going to hold up this trash bill law that passed in 2022. They're going to say, anti-gun, I voted for this year's SAPA. So not only is this just stupid on the part of GOA, there is real harm here to gun rights. There is real danger to gun owners in Wyoming, because if a bad version of this passes, we will have no protection from Biden's tyranny, number one. And number two, every single RINO in the state will campaign on this at election time in the August primaries, and they'll say, oh no, we're 100% pro-gun. For God's sakes, we voted for the GOA SAPA bill. This is treacherous, terrible stuff.
No
compromise. It'll take a decade after that to bring this whole thing back around full circle, for gun owners to realize they got screwed, for enough gun owners to get screwed over by Biden or whoever follows him up later on. And then they realize that the AG and the governor aren't going to lift a finger to actually help them. And then people, and it's going to be 2032. And we're going to be right back here trying to pass a real SAPA bill because the first one was garbage and it was done for nothing more than political talking points at election time.
Well, here's the other part of this too. I think that this goes beyond just the borders of Wyoming. That I've been doing this for almost 15 years now, and we've been passing constitutional carry, stand your ground law, and SAPA. And to be totally honest with you guys, I think that SAPA is the most monumental achievement for gun owners in my entire working career doing gun politics, because in places where you've got constitutional carry, at the end of the day, it's a freedom issue, but it's not impossible to get a permit in most of these states. Standard ground law is also very important, but many states have a version of self-defense laws that provide some protection. But you take SAPA and you draw this line in the sand and you say, F you to the White House and you tell all of your state agencies, we're not going to help them enforce any federal tyrannical gun control laws, that does more for freedom than anything else that we have passed to date here in Wyoming, because it doesn't just help gun owners. When states realize they can be states again and be sovereign again, they can tell Biden's handlers, no, we're not doing this, and 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 we're not doing this. And that is more consequential right now than stand your ground law and constitutional carry combined. And so what we did then in Missouri is so incredibly important, because it passed in true form. It passed with the teeth. And it's hard. It was a hell of a fight. We almost didn't get it done. The governor almost didn't sign it. Senate president in Missouri almost killed the bill. But we held fast and we fought with brutal tactics in Jeff City, Missouri, and we got it done.
Quick question.
Hold on here. If GOA walks in here now and does this to SAPA, the national momentum behind the most consequential pro-gun bill in our lifetimes is going to be eviscerated. It's going to evaporate and blow away. The national momentum for SAPA will begin to die because they push this crappy language with these crappy people.
Quick question. I know we were all very involved in that battle to pass SAPA, and I agree with you, Aaron. I think that the Missouri Second Amendment Preservation Act is the most substantial piece of state-level gun rights legislation that has been passed in the last 50 years in America, because of exactly what you talked about, the 10th Amendment ramifications. You know, it's bad enough when you live in a state like California, for example, or Illinois, or some of these, Washington State right now, where they're passing god-awful stuff. But what happens in those states is relegated to right there. When Joe Biden passes federal gun control or issues his executive orders, it affects every gun owner in America. So for a state to pass legislation like that simply says, I'm sorry, but go screw yourself, we're not going to enforce your federal tyrannical BS here in the state of Missouri, it offers a level of protection way more robust and substantive than constitutional carry does. For example, so my question, to come full circle back to this bill, this Missouri SAPA bill, which Wyoming gun owners and Senator Anthony Bouchard, who is in the comment section, hello, sir, glad to have you here with us today. But this bill in that Anthony Bouchard and so many more in the Wyoming legislature are trying to pass, my question is, how involved was Gun Owners of America in trying to pass SAPA in Missouri this last summer? Because I was there, you were there, Ben was there, we were all there. Where the hell were they? Because I sure as blank did not see them there.
It's kind of funny. It's funny. I saw an email that was sent to me by one of our lifetime members this week in Missouri, where GOA is asking for money to help defend SAPA law in Missouri. And it was very flourishing language about how they rallied their supporters to pass SAPA law in Missouri last session. And it made me crack up, because the answer is they were nowhere. They were nowhere. MOFC and myself for 2 years worked on getting the bill language finalized just right. Never saw him there for that. Never saw him testify in committee alongside of me. Never saw him help us get co-sponsors in the bill. Never saw him lift a finger to actually show up for floor action, which is very important to remind politicians that we are physically here and we're going to hold you accountable at election time. Never saw them actually try to reach out to the governor's office and get Governor Parson to sign the bill into law. And after he did, and we were being sued by the DOJ in circuit court to repeal SAPA last year in Missouri, we never saw them lift a finger then as well. But now that we're going for the Supreme Court, and now that the DOJ is coming after it again, and now that there's money they believe they can raise from this fight, all of a sudden, right, GOA has been active in this fight for the last year and a half. It's absolutely disgusting, because they were totally AWOL. They didn't lift a finger. And they're trying to fool gun owners in Missouri the same way they're trying to fool people now in Wyoming, that they've been involved in this fight the entire time. They've done absolutely nothing.
You know, because when you're actually fighting to pass the bills, you end up spending a lot of money, right? You spend a lot of money putting out ads, producing videos, sending out direct email blasts, direct mail, mobilizing
Capital,
trips to the Capitol. It's a full-blown, massive mobilization program. All hands on deck, full speed ahead, damn the torpedoes. It's time to pass the bill, and it costs a lot. It costs a lot. And when the time came to actually pass, like we're talking about, SAPA in Missouri, GOA was nowhere. But now that there's a lawsuit, now they can run around the whole country and make money from gun owners, because gun owners all across the country will donate to something like that. And they'll say, oh, defend SAPA. This is great for the whole country. This sets great precedent. This is 10th Amendment stuff. And so GOA can sit there and whip up donor dollars in all 50 states for a fight they were never engaged in the first place. Yep. And bringing it all the way back around, that's what's happening in Wyoming. Here we are. WYGO members have paved this trail. We're coming near, maybe to the end. Maybe we can maneuver this in just such a way to get SAPA finally passed into law. And here rolls in GOA going, oh man, here's a great fundraising opportunity. We can make some money from all over the country, because if we pass this bill, if gun owners pass the bill, we can tell gun owners in all 50 states that we're the guys who passed SAPA in Wyoming, and they will donate to us. And that seems to be the end goal here.
Nothing else makes any sense. And I think what's hard for gun owners is that, frankly, we kind of got to expect this from the NRA for a very long time. And I'm going to give credit where it's due. NRA was heavily involved in our fight to pass Stand Your Ground law in 2018. Their lobbyist at that time was fantastic, and he fought side by side with me in the trenches for a very long time in that session. But this has been kind of expected behavior from NRA nationally for a generation now. And it's a true critique. The problem we have now is that other national groups now we have GOA doing the exact same thing.
Like they're learning all the wrong lessons.
Yep. And you come in here, you pick a horrible sponsor in the House. You pick a treacherous sponsor in the Senate. You're pushing a bill that's going to make a terrible precedent going forward. And it's going to do nothing but set back the fight for SAPA. And it's going to hurt pro-gun champions again, who've been leading this fight on the inside for WYGO for a very long time. So, folks, I would say definitely as we approach session next year, be very careful if you hear about a SAPA bill coming from anybody else besides Wyoming gun owners, because Wyoming gun owners is the only group that's actually, on the ground in Wyoming, and who knows how to use this fight to our max advantage. And by our advantage, I don't mean fundraising for a national group. I mean, get us in the best spot to fight for this bill, secure freedom, and set up RINOs to be exposed in the upcoming 2022 primaries. So, folks, this is a major fight we got coming on here. The last thing we need is out-of-state grifters coming in here, attacking the work that we have done for all of these years. So keeping a sharp eye out for what's going on. And, guys, we'll keep you very informed. Thanks a lot. And whatever else you do, share this video so people know what is going on. Take care.
See you guys.